Hello, my name is Bobby McGrath, and today I'm going to be talking through my dissertation project for university that I created. So essentially what this is a learning management system, and here you can see this is the actual front end platform of it itself, and this is the back end which is making it work. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give a little brief description of what's going on here, followed by an explanation of what's going on in the back end, just to kind of explain everything all together. So first and foremost, what we can see here is that my system here is built up of an AI, APIs, components, images, additional resources, as well as style sheets. So this is a React based project. As you can see here, it uses the React conventions, imports from various different images, and imports from React itself, and Reactstrap, which Reactstrap is a React version of Bootstrap. So essentially it's just bringing that in place of Bootstrap. So essentially what this project is, it's a learning management system which incorporates AI, hence the need for the AI section here. And what it does is it uses a student's grades to predict what course they should belong on. So if we have a little go here and just have a little look. So the first thing you'll notice, for instance, is we've got a submit button here, which currently doesn't work. And the reason why that is locked out, so that it requires a entry of a password and email in order for that to begin. Just a simple form of data validation. So I've already got a pre-populated field here, and as you can see, the submit button is now live. So when we enter, we're greeted with a splash page, and in the splash page we have basic animations here. Let's see if I can find where the animations are. There's quite a lot of information here, so if we go to main page, I believe, yes, here we go. So we have some animations here, and what I do with the animations is with the glows is I allow them to be compatible with various different browser types. So for instance, we've got Opera here, we've got WebKit animations which are compatible with Chrome and Safari, Mozilla Firefox, and then the basic animation reference itself as well, the fallback option, so to speak. So these have a class called heading style, and these are called in to the main component here. Again, there's a lot of different components because it's quite a large project, so you have to bear with me, but I will find it. Main page, here we go. So the main page calls in the main page SCSS file. So I'm using SASS in this project. I thought it'd be a little bit better to use it in this project because it just offers a little bit more flexibility. CSS was fine, but I want to use something with just a little bit, just a few more features. As I say, SASS is a derivative of CSS, but just offers a bit more functionality, so I thought that'd be a good idea. I'm also using links as well, which is basically a way of it's called routing in React, which is basically just a way of hopping from one page to another. The way that the page is set up in order to allow it to route from one page to another is from the actual main app file, which calls in a tremendous amount of different components. Basically, it calls in the various different courses for maths, English, science, as well as the document object model, and then a few APIs as well, which form the basis of the quizzes. So if we quickly pop into an API. We have a basic English level 1 quiz, which just generates some questions. So for instance, mnemonic is the correct answer will be a tool that helps your memory to retrieve information. And then there's two other ways of answering, a way to help you spell words and describing word. If you choose one of them, you get it incorrect. So that's basically the back end at work there. It's got an AI as well. So if we quickly pop into the general section here, what I'm doing is I'm building a model generator. What this does is it basically uses the Sklearn library, which is a fantastic library. It's certainly worth looking at. So what it does is it creates a file, it reads from a file which is a CSV file, which contains a whole load of different grades, grade boundaries. So currently in GCSE levels, students can get between 1 and 9. I chose 8 because ironically enough I wasn't aware there was a 9 grade boundary when I built this program, but there is a 9, but 8 kind of signifies the higher end of the grade. So basically we have a file that it reads from to gather the CSV information. It's got, I believe, well over 4,000 different entries. I manually had to populate each one of them by finding out all of the different iterations of these, various grades. To return. So for instance here, if the student got an 8 in English, an 8 in maths, an 8 in science, and an 8 in another course of their specific choice, then the overall course would be an 8, and in this program an 8 would represent a high level course. You'll see how this works in a minute. It sounds a little bit confusing currently, but when I show you the programming in action, it will kind of start to make sense a little bit more. So essentially what it does is it then creates a dump file where once it has all the information it needs, it will dump it into a specific area. And then it will read from the grades file as a CSV, and obviously as it's comma separated values, it needs to separate the commas via that delimiter, and then it will just print that information down into my terminal here. It creates bins. So these bins are essentially like, the best way to describe them is grading categories. So there's 3 lots of bins, and 6 is the lower end of the grade, which is an integer which links into a beginner grade. And then we've got 7, which links into a medium grade, and then we've got 9, which links into an advanced grade. I tried to do 1, 2, and 3, but it would not let me. So I had to stick with 6, 7, and 9 for the way to label these different categories of beginner, medium, and advanced. And then we have grades, which are brought down into equality, and they're cut into the different bins and labels. So again, it will determine how many labels there are and what the various boundaries are in relation to the group names. So, and the labels of course are the group names. So then it will encode and then fit, and then it will create X and Y axes where it will drop the quality label from the X axes, and then just use the other CSV. I don't know if it mentions it here, but let me just go to the very top. Here we go. So quality is the kind of final boundary, and then you have the other course they choose, as well as the science course they'll choose, the English course they'll choose, and the maths course they'll choose. And yeah, essentially what it does is it fits that, and then it tests it and trains it. So the test size is split 20-80, so the testing itself will be a 20% to an 80% actual training ratio, and then it will fit it into a classifier, make a prediction, and then finally dump it into the dump file there. And then that dump file is then referenced in, so for instance this is the general course. So if we go to general, it will reference it just here using this a JSON file. So it will fetch from this particular location here, which is the port 5000. So if we look here, I'm running my currently I'm running my build off sorry, let's try that again. Here we go. Sorry, apologies for that. Yeah, so I'm running the actual the predictions on this particular location, which is then being called back here, and then that information is there for populated in such a way where it starts to do for loops in order to be able to calculate what belongs in the certain boxes. Again, a lot of information on the back end here, so let's start moving on to the front end a bit more. So what we have here is we have a front end, as we said earlier, and it just speaks a little bit about how the course works and where the user can begin, and they've got 2 choices depending on how they want to go about it. They can either enter the courses here, which is all animated, and again is compatible with Opera. I'm using that here, Firefox or Google. And one thing that I felt was very important was to be able to allow for the system to be adaptable. So if I click here, for instance, the system will grow and not be hindered by the by the change of size. So it still allows for adaptability. So if we enter our general course here, what we have is the aforementioned maths, English and science. So for instance, if a student was to say, well, I got a grade of 6 in maths, a grade of 4 in English, a grade of 7 in science, and then I got another grade in drama which was 5. So then what I'll do is I'll be able to predict the most suitable course, and what it will do is it will generate that based upon the student's response they belong on a level 2 course. So what will happen here is the AI will go into the grade CSV and it will look at, you know, maths, okay, that's a level 6, so it'll look for the level 6. English is a level 4, so then it will look, you know, down this little category here. Science is level 7, and then the other grade is 5. So if we have a little look here, try and get a vague idea of, okay, so 6475 will return back a 7, which is a level 2 course with regards to the model generator itself, just here, which will return a medium level course, which is of course a level 2 course. So what we then do is we can enter the course like so, and we will be taken to a basic course where the students can learn from. So I myself come from a educational background. I'm a lecturer, so I thought this would be a good idea to use this for my dissertation, because it's something that I have understanding of already, but it links into my passion for computers. So it's essentially using something that I have knowledge of, but then bringing in my passion of computers into a kind of combination, so to speak. So if we have a look here, they've chosen a level 2 course which covers just a wide variety of different topics. So you've got English, maths, science and computing. So if we enter the computing, level 2 based upon the current level 2 GCSEs states that they should be learning this kind of stuff here, so memory and buses and motherboards. So what they can do is they can read through the information here, and then there'll be an image attached to it which gives a little bit more information. And then they can also watch a video as well. If they click on that link, it will take them to an external video. And yeah, that's done essentially in another component, which is let's have a little look, a modal. So it uses a modal. I'm not going to run through all of the different components here because it's very busy, but as you can see there is a lot. I mean, for instance, if I go back to the home page and re-enter the general course, I'll predict a very simple course here. When it's doing that section there, when it's making a decision, that's just a simple, it's just waiting basically. So it will hide initially and then show after a certain amount of time, which is stated by the here we go, which is stated here. So it will hide it for 2000 milliseconds or 2 seconds, and then pop up. So yeah, and then a button will appear after that's been done. So it tell the person their course has been calculated, and then it will create a nav link which has a button in it, and that nav link will send them to the level 1 course. So if we click level 1 course, and the content here, as you can see, is different. It's completely different. So rather than being of a level 2 quality, it's now level 1. And in level 1 in computing, they generally learn Scratch. For instance, as an example, they learn a lot of other different things, of course, but Scratch is one of them. So then it will speak a little bit about what a Scratch is, a user interface, community of users, the Scratch wiki. It'll provide an image as well as, again, as a video that links back to it. And yeah, so essentially what the user can do is they can go through and learn, and then what they'll do is they'll use this test section. So as I spoke of earlier, there's an API section here. So if we go to the general level 1 questions and run this test, we'll see how this links in. So the first question is, a fictional story is ... just like here, and the correct answer is made up by the writer, just here. They're jumbled up in a way where essentially they're just randomized, so the user doesn't get the same set of questions in the same order each time, so it creates a little bit of a kind of an element of surprise, so to speak. And then 2 incorrect answers, a factual account and a way to information. So if we use these APIs to feed in the information, what we can do is we can use that to start making decisions. So if we go on to our component of our general level 1 quiz, what will happen is it will use the answers in a way where essentially it will create. I'm trying to find a way to describe this. It's quite a complex little system, but it will create. What it will do is it will return a result, and the result is a component within itself, which is a form of transitions, and it's just essentially another way of creating a kind of a response to what they've done, and it just links back to different courses. So for instance, if they well, I'll show you here actually, it's easier to show you. So if they get that correct, 52,604, 52,600, let's say 40 actually, which is described as solid, has a fixed shape volume, type of program language is Scratch, block based. So then it will calculate their test scores, and then it will say, well, most of your answers were incorrect. So if we look here, most of your answers were, and then it will use a strong tag here just to kind of, you know, emphasize what happened. And if they get an incorrect message, it will return it back as a prop. And the prop type will allow them to be taken back to the correct course, so to speak. So it says you may need some practice before you progress further. Click the button to return back to your course. So they'll return back to level 1 course. But if they was to take the test, a fictional story is a made up, 52,604, twice solid, which cannot flow, types program language, block based. So now they've got all those questions right, your answers were correct. You're already set up to level 2, click the button below to progress to your new course, and it will take them onto the level 2 course. But if we quickly pop back in to our general course, run it again, and get a mixture of questions right and wrong, we'll see a different outcome here. So if we say it's a factual story, 52,604, try and have a look here, a fixed shape, yep, just choose that, and object oriented language. So they've got some right, some wrong. Oh, sorry, pardon me, I've done that wrong. Let me try again. A fictional story is made up by the writer, 56,604, but can flow, that we know that's wrong. Object oriented, that's wrong as well. So now they've got 2 right and 2 wrong in the quiz. So your answers were mixed. Means you're getting some right and some wrong. So it recommends they return back to level 1 to continue studying. If they take the level 2 course, however, it changes a little bit again. So what this course is, in a way, is it's adaptive. It adapts to the user. So as the user grows with the course, so does the course. The course changes. So if we do this test section here, and we get a mixture of things right and wrong, we'll see a different outcome. Got them all correct, so level 3. And with level 2, if you get them some wrong, right and some wrong, it will say you can remain on level 2 or you can drop back down to level 1. So that's basically how the program works. Essentially, it's a way of allowing a student to be able to learn with their course and grow with their course, and it's comprised of quite a nice, nifty, you know, front end which has a a lot going on, but it also has quite a complex back end full of components, APIs, AI. It also has a load of resources in terms of where the information's been taken from. So rather than taking from places that belong to other people, I didn't want to do that. I decided to take from places that were open source, and I've referenced them all here to keep an eye on where it all came from. Everything's in a style sheet, which follows the correct conventions, using fade-ins, things like that. So, and it's all adaptive. So it's all been done in a way where it's both nice to look at, but it's also very functional from a back-end perspective. So I think in terms of my experience in from the dissertation itself, it's allowed me to gain essentially a full stack view of how to produce an artifact. I also use the agile methodology in a way when I create this. I know that agile methodology is primarily meant for a group of people, but I still created essentially a backlog, a whole product backlog, a kind of a set idea of what I wanted to achieve throughout the whole project, and then I also created sprints where I'd essentially try to get something done within a week time period, and I'd create my own sprint backlog in a way where I'd have to get something done within that week period, and then I'd review it and test it and make sure everything was okay, and then have a retrospective where I'd move forward and make sure everything was tied up, and looking at what I could do right going forward, and what I could do better, and just using those same principles but in a kind of individualistic sense as well. So it was very much a whole project. It was run by myself, but the whole thing, in terms of how it was constructed from a front-end perspective, a back-end perspective, and how the actual project was managed, was all essentially tied together into a full stack project. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of what I've done in the past with regards to my skills and my experiences. I know it's quite a long video, there's a lot of information it contained. You're more than welcome to go to certain sections. If you want to contact me, please feel free. I'll be able to give some more information about anything that I've not covered in the video. But apart from that, I just really appreciate you taking the time to watch my video and look through what I've done, and I look forward to speaking to you further if you have any questions. So thank you so much. Goodbye.